Hi, I'm Christina Bellantoni, Assistant Managing Editor for Politics at the Los Angeles Times, here with a debate about Proposition 63, which is related to gun control, on the November 8th ballot. Excited to see such a good crowd here. Fun to be at C Political's Ballot Con. I am joined today, and this is not in any particular order, but I'll just start on the right, by Margot Bennett, who is the Executive Director of Women Against Gun Violence, and Sam Paredes, who is the Executive Director of Gun Owners of California. Thank you both for being here, and the format is that you each will have an opening statement, and we will start with the Yes on 63 campaign.
Thank you. Women Against Gun Violence supports Prop 63 and encourages you to vote yes. Between 1993 and 2014, California's strong gun laws that were hotly contested at the time and include background checks, basic safety training, a ban on assault weapons, and child safety laws, have helped reduce gun deaths by almost 60%. It still remains, however, that over 5,400 Californians are killed or seriously wounded with guns each year. We know that no one law will prevent all incidents of gun violence, but Prop 63 is a critical part of the mosaic that will help further reduce the number of gun deaths in our state by banning high-capacity magazines, like those that helped take the lives of 20 children at Sandy Hook Elementary School, and by requiring background checks for ammunition purchases that might have prevented the shooter at the Aurora movie theater from buying over 6,000 rounds and killing 12 people and wounding 58. Vote yes on Prop 63.
Hi, I'm Sam Paredes, Executive Director of Gun Owners of California. It's a pleasure to be here in the City Hall of my town of birth. Margot and I were having a very nice conversation, reminiscing about growing up in Los Angeles, so it's really an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. This year, more than any other year, Californians are going to be faced with a minimum of 17 ballots on the measure, on the ballot, propositions on the ballot that they're going to have to study and vote on. It is very difficult, especially when propositions like Proposition 63 has over 30 pages of legalese attached to it that many lawyers find difficult to interpret. So one of the things that we want to encourage people to do is look to see who is supporting and opposing Proposition 63. Those groups that are opposing Proposition 63 equal all of the law enforcement organizations in the state of California that have taken a position on this issue have opposed it, including the California State Sheriff's Association, the Association of Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, the Los Angeles Assistant Deputy District Attorney organization has opposed it, and includes the California Correctional Peace Officers, the Police Officers Research Association of California, which constitutes 69,000 law enforcement officers in the state of California, the Fish and Game Wardens, the list goes on and on. But here's the most important. The California State Chiefs of Police Association are in opposition to this bill. And they actually participated in the writing of the law that was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor that instituted ammunition registration and magazines that hold, ban on magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. So those laws are already on the books, and what the Chiefs of Police Association said, who are virtually always anti-gun, they said that this measure it will destroy the effort that they went through in the legislature. So we encourage a no vote on Prop 63.
You sort of predicted my first question. Just to Margot, why is this measure necessary, given that Jerry Brown signed several gun control measures, as Sam referenced? You know, there are slight differences, but why is this more important? Why should voters vote for it, given that we have this on the books?
Well, we only have two of the issues on the books, but there are other areas of gun safety legislation that are covered by this initiative. One of those is reporting lost and stolen guns. And that isn't a law in California, and Prop 63 would make it a requirement to report lost and stolen guns. That's critical because what happens is a lot of times people buy guns, give them to a prohibited person, and then later claim that the gun was lost or stolen. So that particular feature of the initiative is in place to stop gun trafficking. It also puts in place procedures on taking guns out of the homes of domestic abusers. Right now, there isn't a procedure in place, a strong procedure that allows for the courts to get guns to actually require proof that the guns have been turned in. So we see that as an important feature. So that's just two of the reasons. So it's not just all about licensing ammunition. Let me just add also that there's a requirement that gun sellers actually perform background checks on their employees. And it's probably amazing to a lot of people to think that gun store owners and gun sellers don't have to do a background check on their employees, but right now they don't. So that's another part of the initiative that we feel is of critical importance.
Sam, I'll give you a specific question, just, of the laws that are passed, what is your issue with those, or do you have an issue with those, and how different do you view them from what's in this measure?
Well, at some time in the future, we can have an argument about gun control and the efficacy of gun control or the effectiveness of gun control. But this debate and what is before the voters today is Prop 63. And it's very important to point out that the issue of lost and stolen guns, as it's written in the initiative, is an issue that was passed by the legislature twice, and Governor Jerry Brown vetoed twice, and his veto message said that it is unnecessary, that they don't find any evidence that law-abiding citizens are not reporting lost and stolen guns for a variety of reasons, including insurance purposes and to protect themselves legally, and that is not a legal issue. With regards to removing firearms from dangerous people, we already have laws in place. It's called the Armed Prohibited Persons System, where the Department of Justice knows everybody who owns a gun. They have a list of it, and the minute that somebody becomes ineligible to have a gun, they get a visit from the Department of Justice and say, where are the guns? And it's been in place for years and years. It's been utilized in the state of California. The issues of ammunition registration, background checks, and the ban of high-capacity magazines, so-called, anything that holds more than 10 rounds, are issues that, whether we like it or not, the chiefs of police worked out this issue in a manner that was effective and efficient from their perspective. They're the ones who enforce the laws. And they're opposing this initiative because they say it will change drastically how they go about doing this. Number one, what they passed in the legislature doesn't cost anything other than the $1 fee that people will pay every time they have a background check done. The nonpartisan Auditor General of the state of California said that this initiative will cost somewhere in upwards of tens of millions of dollars to implement, because people will have to go through a background check. They'll have to pay a $50 fee. They'll have to wait 30 days in order to get a permit in order to go ahead and doing that. But that is accomplished by simply, under the existing law, like it or not, you go to the dealer, you swipe your driver's license, they do an instant background check, which they are capable of doing now, and if you pass it, you walk out with the ammunition. If you don't, you can't buy the ammunition. The provisions of background checks on employees and stuff, that's a part of the legislation that was passed by the legislature, so that's already law. Here's the last thing. When the laws were passed by the legislature, they put provisions in it attempting to amend the initiative, so whatever is passed by the initiative will immediately be amended and mirror what is passed by the legislature. Now, what that's going to do is going to cause a lawsuit, because Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom is not going to stand for his initiative that was passed, and if it passes and is voted on, is not going to go into effect the way he wants it to, and in fact will be returned to what the legislature passed. First time in history that the legislature passed a prospective law that changed an initiative that might be passed in the future.
Yet there are other legal perspectives that believe that the measure would supersede the law that was signed by the governor this summer.
I don't understand the question.
There are people that believe the measure, by studying this, they said the measure would supersede the law that was signed by the governor.
Well, that's true. That's where the legal argument is. That's what's going to cost taxpayers millions of dollars to work this out in the courts in the form of a lawsuit, in which case both the legislative bill that was passed and the initiative will probably be suspended while the courts figure out what is the constitutionality of the legislature trying to supersede an initiative before it's passed versus the people who say that an initiative will always trump a measure passed by the legislature. So yes, this is guaranteed to go to the courts and cost millions of dollars.
I should point out that you all should have received question cards, so if you have questions for our panel, make sure to fill those out and either pass them forward or hand them to the volunteers who are here. We'll try to take a couple of questions too. So let's have a response to that. I think you're ready.
Right. There's no guarantee that there will be a lawsuit over the ammunition licensing. And in fact, Gavin Newsom hasn't indicated that there will be a lawsuit. I don't think we know. But in either case, it's of critical importance to our safety that ammunition be licensed, that people undergo background checks. I think what's really important here is that the stronger the state's gun laws are, the less gun violence there is. And the data shows that that's true. It's indisputable.
Are there particular states you would point to?
Well, California, for one, because since we started passing strong gun safety legislation in the 1990s, the rate of gun deaths and injuries has declined by 60%. And that is greater than most of the other states in the United States. I mean, and that's facts. So do we want to continue to be a state working towards keeping our population safe, or do we not? Do you really need to possess a high-capacity magazine? Do you need to be able to shoot off 10 bullets or more? Or can you take the time to change the magazine?
One of the criticisms that's in the actual response to the proposition is that Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom is the chief champion of this, and we know he's running for governor, that this is a political move for him to advance his political agenda. What is the response to that when asked?
Well, I don't have a response to that. That's something you would have to ask Gavin Newsom. I mean, it's not a political issue for us or for the other gun safety nonprofit organizations that are supporting the initiative. We're all about keeping our citizens as safe as we can, and only Gavin can answer whether this was a political move on his part.
We have written extensively about this if you guys want to read in the LA Times as well. Thank you. So, and one of the things that we've also written about is that the National Rifle Association, while it opposes Prop 63 and it has spent some money here in California, the effort has actually been pretty minimal compared to what they're spending in other states. Right next door in Nevada, there's a fairly similar proposal on gun control. So why is the NRA not more involved here trying to fight this? We're not seeing a lot on television right now.
Because the NRA has taken the lead of law enforcement in the state of California, and they've said that when law enforcement says that, hey, we have this law in the books, come January 1st, the law that was passed by the legislature will go into effect. We will have background checks for ammunition purchases. There will be a ban on high-capacity magazines, whether the initiative passes or not. So it's already there. So, and that's why we are saying that the people need to take a look at who is supporting and opposing this and for what reasons. And when the chiefs of police of the state of California say that this measure will undo the safeguards that they built into the legislation that they worked with the legislature to pass and are not found in Proposition 63 in the 34 pages of legal gobbledygook that many lawyers find very confusing with vague terms that have never been defined legislatively. The chiefs of police are saying, we already have this, and it is not worth destroying, messing up what we worked with the legislature to pass, to pass this, the other provisions of this proposition. The National Rifle Association is an equal partner in this fight. They're here in California working with us side by side, but they've got other priorities. The importance of appointments to the United States Supreme Court is of paramount importance to all people who support the Second Amendment, and the NRA is rightfully spending a huge amount of time on the races that are going to impact that, being the presidential race and United States Senate races throughout the country. They're here, we're working together, but the reality is, whether you support gun control or not, we already have ammunition registration, background checks, and a ban on high-cap magazines on the books. It's already on the books. This proposition is going to scramble up what law enforcement has worked out with the legislature.
Thank you. Now, Margot, one of the issues is law enforcement is saying this. What's your response, and are there law enforcement supporters of Proposition 63?
Yes, there are. And we find that it's mostly organizations of the rank and file that are against the initiative, but we find that the leadership of law enforcement supports the initiative. Because although the two provisions that have already been put into law are also part of the initiative, there are other parts as well, and we cannot ignore those other parts. Also, the initiative has built in a way to modify itself. So the legislature can go back if some police organizations are concerned. There is a provision built into the initiative that it can be modified.
I should point out that the Los Angeles Times has been doing polling on this initiative, and it is favored to pass. We're actually out in the field with a poll now that we'll have next week published looking at this issue. How does your organization respond to that? I mean, this is a difficult issue in California where these measures tend to pass.
There aren't many people in this room, I can tell by the ages here, who were here back in 1982 when there was a proposition on the ballot called Proposition 15 that was going to ban the possession of handguns in the state of California. Up until the weekend of the election, every survey in the state of California said that it was going to pass 2-1. Every survey. That measure lost 2 days later by 2-1 because people, when they made their decisions to vote, took a look to see who was supporting the measure and who was opposing the measure. And law enforcement was unanimously opposed to Prop 15, as they are all of the organizations, including street cops, including police chiefs, including sheriffs, including prison guards, including deputy district attorneys, the Association of Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs Association, game wardens, everybody who has to do with implementing the law, their organizations are opposed to Prop 63. So that measure is still up in the air.
I think we would have time for one question if there's one from the audience. Anyone have something they'd like to ask? No. Then I'll close out and ask, what would be next? If this does pass on November 8th, what would your organization like to see beyond that? Or is this all of the strengthening of gun control that you would want?
We're pleased with this initiative. I mean, we've been around for 23 years working to make California safe, and we're pleased with this. We're not naive enough, though, to believe that there won't be ways that enthusiastic gun organizations try to circumvent the intents of the law. And so we do find that a lot of times our laws and this initiative are going back to current laws to strengthen them, to make sure that their intent is clear. And so I don't know what's next, but I think we'll have to wait to see what the next move is from gun organizations.
And Sam, I'll let you have the last word. Is there an effort that you would have, if this passes, would you be involved in any sort of litigation, or your organization?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anything that infringes on the Second Amendment, there will be litigation that will be filed. We will be a part of that process, as well as all of the other civil rights groups that are involved in the protection of the Second Amendment. Every year. Now, folks, believe it or not, I might have started in kindergarten, but I've been working in the legislature for over 30 years. And every year that gun control measures are passed, the package of gun control measures are passed, the anti-gun side says, this is what we need. If we get this, we've got our entire package. And every year they come back with more and more stuff. With regards to this initiative, though, it can be changed only with a 55% supermajority or by a vote of the people. It cannot be changed if they find any portions to be broken. And that's an important point. So remember, vote with the chiefs of police of the state of California. Vote no on Prop 63.
Thank you very much for this spirited debate. Again, this is Proposition 63 related to gun control. Enjoy the rest of the conference today. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to both.